Welcome to another episode of Rich Doc Poor Docs. Today, we thought we would do something different, and instead of interviewing somebody else, we're actually going to be interviewed, and we've asked Dr. Nii Darko of Docs Outside the Box to interview us. And so, Nii, we're gonna let you take it from here.
And give me the mic. Hey guys, no, seriously, I'm really proud of you all. This is really awesome that you guys decided to take, your word and your message and your purpose seriously into a podcast format, because that's where a lot of people are at. People are driving to work, people are at work, people are doing a whole bunch of different things, and the ability for them to listen to your, what you guys have to talk about and teach in a podcast format, I think is awesome. So thank you for having me along in this process. I'm really proud of you all for expanding out into the podcast world.
And thank you, Nii, for being our teacher. You've really taught us a lot through about podcasting and been there along with us in the journey. So it's been really amazing.
Well, y'all are literally A+ students. You made it really easy for me because you already had the topic, you already had the concept. But then also at the same time, I think the key thing is that you guys know you have genuine, you guys work really well genuinely together, right? It's not like this prepackaged type thing, as I was telling you all earlier. So that makes it that much more compelling also. And, I've gravitated to you all because you were on my show, almost a year ago, maybe a little bit less than a year ago. Mm-hmm. And then I put your episode out not too long ago and let you know how organized I am. But, I was really fascinated. My wife was fascinated by your story of, wanting that dream of becoming a physician. For you, Dr. Kenji, kind of interspersing entrepreneurship, kind of just, doing your own thing. And then all of a sudden, Dr. Leti gets the bug to go into real estate. And then you guys are just kind of taking it from there. And I think the biggest thing that I got from it was literally by the end of that year when you guys were on vacation, you already got your first property. You started to do some delayed gratification and got all these different, your empire just started to multiply after that, which I found really fascinating. But you know me, with Docs Outside the Box and the way how I am, I really like to go under the surface. And I want to find out about that conversation that you guys had in Australia when you guys are driving. Dr. Leti, you were reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And, you guys are starting to dream together and you guys are kind of having this verbal, visual board together, right? Of what your life is supposed to be like. If you guys are cool with that, let's take it there. Can we talk about that?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, for those of you who haven't heard the story, we were in New Zealand, actually. We had a camper van and I started reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad and just totally blew my mind. And Kenji and I actually read it out loud to each other. Which was phenomenal because we could go line by line and we could kind of talk about what we wanted to do with all of this. And then actually immediately after we finished that, we started reading another real estate book because at that point we were hooked and we knew we were going to do real estate. And I think we ended up reading about 3 different real estate books that vacation and then coming back and just putting the plan into action. And I think part of what made us successful, reflecting back on it, I mean, Kenji and I have always made decisions and we just go with them, and that's been really, really great for us. But as part of it was this big vision. I mean, I remember we came back, we went to a Christmas party with a bunch of physicians, right? Immediately after we came back, and we had some friends walk up to us and say, "Hey, what are you guys up to?" And I literally was like, "Oh, we're becoming real estate barons. That's what we're doing." And they're like, and they looked at us. I mean, nobody just walks around saying that, I'm becoming a real estate baron. But that's literally how I walked around. And I think Kenji was really embarrassed by it. But that kind of vision, this big vision of this empire that we were going to build was there from the very beginning. It wasn't just hey, we're going to buy a couple duplexes and create, 20,000 in cash flow and that's it. And it was I'm going to become a real estate baron. That's really how I thought about it.
Now, Dr. Leti, I want to take you through these question and answer because I'm trying to get to something. So let me ask you this question, Dr. Leti. Before saying all this, you're going to be a real estate baron, reading the book. Did you specifically have any experience with real estate?
I didn't at all, actually. I mean, I had owned a primary residence before that, but that was pretty much it. I just loved land and I loved houses.
Now, I remember your father was a physician, right? And then you became a physician. So for the most part, medicine was the way to go for you. How was it from a mindset standpoint for you, to be spending all this time becoming a master on the human body? Then you read this book and just like that, now you want to be a real estate baron. Take us through that process. How did you make that decision that this is what you wanted to do?
You know, I don't think I saw it as like a dichotomy that I could only do one or the other. I really felt like I could do both. And so I don't think it was as radical shift of saying like, hey, I'm walking away from medicine and I'm going to go into real estate. Like I really believed having like one of the first earliest books we read was called Real Estate Millionaire, or no, Millionaire Real Estate Investor by Gary Keller. And you see these stories, it's actually just based on stories of other people who have built like huge portfolios of real estate. They're millionaires now from their real estate. And you could see that a lot of them kept their day job. And so I never really thought of it as one or the other.
Okay, gotcha. Because, you know, a lot of times people, you know, we get, at least as physicians, we feel like this is all we do, right? All of our eggs are in one basket. And for you to just be like, yeah, I'm down, let's do this. As a matter of fact, let's do it to 100th degree is awesome. You know, it's really awesome. So there comes a point where you guys start dreaming together and start thinking, okay, like this is how we want our lives to be outside of just medicine, right? Medicine is a part of it, but real estate is going to be a part of it, and how eventually we want to live our lives together. Can we get into that if you don't mind? Like let's talk about those talks, those discussions, maybe a little bit of uncomfort. Let's go there.
Sure. Yeah. I for me, I told Leti this early on. I said that for me, I kind of felt my life was a little bit on hold. At least certain aspects of my life were on hold until I got married, right? It's like once you get married and then like you find that partner and, you know,
look at y'all so cute. Look how she looks.
Well, he was 40, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time. Yeah,
to find the right person.
That's right. And so, you know, for me, yeah, there was a certain kind of like, I was waiting for a long time. And then once we got married, you know, for me, it was pretty natural at that point to start kind of the idea of planting roots. And interestingly, we didn't plant roots by buying a primary residence. You know, it was more about shared vision, you know, shared goals, and really, you know, I think early on we definitely dreamed big, but what I realize now in retrospect is that we didn't dream big enough. It was only it was only actually within the last, I'd say last year and a half, that we realized that, you know, we're actually kind of playing small, and that we could play a lot bigger and actually have an even bigger impact, you know. And we're not just talking about like money, we're talking about having a bigger impact on other people and helping other people. I think that's kind of where, you know, we took it from playing small and just helping kind of friends to trying to help a lot of people. And you know, and whether it's like thousands of people or whatever it is, I mean, we want to help others achieve financial freedom as well.
Yeah, I'm going to interrupt him and say, you know, one thing about Kenji that makes him really unique is he always has started with the outcome in mind. And I think most of us don't start that way. We just say, I'm going to be a physician and it's going to be great. And, you know, and we don't think about actually what we want our lives to be about. And we don't think about, you know, having a vision and then working backward and figuring out how to get it. And I think that that's one of the things he really did for us. Even before we went on that real estate journey, we were looking for a way to get the life that we wanted, because we had already outlined what that life was, because he had literally sat down with me and said, hey, how do you want to live your life? Like, what do you want it to look like? Most people don't do that.
Now, before you guys went to Australia or in New Zealand, was it Australia and New Zealand or just New Zealand?
Just New Zealand.
Okay. Yeah. Before you guys went to New Zealand, you were looking for a primary residence. You mentioned that you were working with a real estate, realtor, helping you guys find property or find a place for your primary estate. Like, and we know, like, we always wanted that, right? Like, you wanted that really beautiful house, the white picket fence, or whatever type of version of that type of perfect house is. How hard was that decision to pivot and say, we're going to go towards this? And tell us what this was that you eventually landed on.
Yeah. So it was, I mean, it was seamless. It was easy. It was
really
not even a question. I mean, yeah, we were going from looking at, you know, $1 million homes to just shifting to, oh no, we're going to use all that money for real estate investing. I mean,
I'm looking at $250,000 like
or cheaper,
duplexes next to like cement factories. I mean, that's literally what we started. Yeah.
So your first property was a duplex.
Yeah, our first property was a duplex, actually.
2 duplexes
next to a cement factory.
No, we didn't get that one. We had read, make ridiculously low offers. So we went around making ridiculously low offers for a while.
For a while, yeah. It wasn't until it was probably a few months after that we ended up getting our first 2 duplexes. But yeah, it was really easy. I'll tell you, it's uh, in fact, and even to this day, we don't have a primary residence, and it's because we are so focused on our goals, and our priorities just shift. And we value kind of the mobility, the freedom to be able to pick up and to be able to move anywhere. We've lived in, I think, 7 or 8 different places in the last 6 years or so, right? So I mean,
It's
we've
been
lived
crazy.
we lived in Atlanta, we lived in
My favorite town.
Seattle. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so Seattle. We've lived in Hawaii. We lived in different all over Seattle too. Actually,
Yeah.
in multiple houses. So yeah, it's been an adventure. It's been really fun, and yeah, we don't regret it at all. So
your first place that you owned and you rented was a duplex. So you had two different couples living in there, or did you guys live in one and the other, and you rented the other? How did that work?
yeah, initially we were just renting our own place, and then everything we bought that first year we bought and had other people living in them.
Okay.
It wasn't until the next year that we bought a property that was actually within Seattle city lines, and which is pretty unusual to find a deal within Seattle city lines. But we found something really amazing. Actually, Leti found it, and we decided, hey, this is it's okay location wise. It was okay. The actual neighborhood was kind of sucky, but it was within Seattle city lines. So we're like, okay, yeah, this is kind of in between our jobs. This commuting is not going to be a big deal. So we decided to live there, and actually we did something called house hacking, where we live in actually we lived on the upper part of the house, and then we rented
Smart.
the bottom house.
You don't want to hear no noise coming from the top, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, that's true. Yeah, there was a lot of noise actually, and we had a little toddler, so yeah, they were running around.
Well, yeah, we had I think she was probably only 6 or 7 months when we moved in there. But she learned to walk there, and then we had my parents move into the other bedroom too. So
oh, wow,
yeah, it was pretty tight, and then we went traveling after that.
So what, when you say house hacking, first of all, what's the concept of house hacking, and why is that such a big thing? Because I hear about it all the time, but the audience may be like, well, what's the big deal about it? Tell us about that.
So house hacking is when you buy a property, you buy it as a primary residence. So oftentimes you get a better loan terms, and then you live in part of it, and then you rent out part of it. Ideally, the renter pays your mortgage, or maybe even more. I mean, if you buy a 4-plex and you live in one unit, oftentimes you'll actually cash flow and live for free.
Yeah, I think it's an ideal strategy for somebody who's just starting out. We've actually talked to a number of medical students and residents who have asked us, "Hey, do you think this is a good idea?" And I think it's a great idea.
Wow.
Yeah, that early. Yeah, and it's because I think you can. There are actually a number of different types of loans, and one type in particular called a physician loan for investment properties. I mean, of course, you have physician loans for your primary residence, but there are a number of banks that actually lend to you, and you can go out and buy a duplex or a 4-plex. As long as you live in it, you can get a physician loan. And a physician loan really just means a loan with great terms, where you can put down as little as 5%. I didn't see any kind of no money down options for investment properties, but you can get away with putting down as little as 5% on some of these properties. So you have very little requirement for down payments, and you can get a property. And as Leti said, if you get renters, you can have them pay for the mortgage. So I think it's a great way to get started. And then when you're ready to move on to the next stage, whether it's fellowship or residency, whatever it is, then you can move out and then rent out that last unit, and then you can have a 4-plex, when you're in fellowship or something like that, right? And you can have your first rental property fully rented out, and then you can actually move into your second rental property, wow. Right?
So it just kind of what's the word? Exponentially gets bigger,
right?
Wow. Right, and some people do it with single family homes too, right? You could get a single family home, rent out multiple bedrooms, and live there when you're in med school. Or you could even do it where you every single year move and buy a new multifamily too.
Now I'm interested in this vision again, because I think it's a phenomenal story. Um, what do you think, like, how did those conversations occur in terms of how you wanted to live your life? What did you want to purchase? I know, Dr. Leti, you had mentioned that you made a decision to get rid of your Nordstrom's card because some of that money could be used towards getting a home. Or, Dr. Kenji, you had mentioned my favorite car. I don't have one yet, but I might have to get a used one. But you had mentioned the Tesla, not getting a Tesla and being able to purchase a house. Take us through that thought process of, where you see yourselves in 5 years, 10 years, when you decided to get into real estate, or how you envisioned your life. Like, what was the shifts, or just take us to what you thought about, what were you at that point, and then how you shifted to where you are now.
So one of the things that struck me when we read Rich Dad Poor Dad is he talks about his wife, Kim, and about how, like, if she wants a fancy car or whatever, they go buy enough multifamily that cash flow to pay for that car. And I think we really took that to heart and said, that's what we're going to do. And so literally became sometimes like decisions like, do you go buy a Tesla and spend 40K on it or 50K? Or do you take that same money and buy a $150,000 duplex and that's your down payment? And that duplex makes you $10,000 a year cash flow tax free. Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Wow.
then that 10,000, you wait 4 years and suddenly you have that Tesla paid off, paid for yourself. And in the meantime, your renters are paying down your mortgage, you forced depreciation. I mean, the property, and then it continues to make you that $10,000 a year for the rest of your life.
Yeah. You actually kind of get addicted to investing, right? Not spending that money and actually buying a duplex. It's almost like, and maybe this is just us, I don't know, we love the idea of kind of collecting things, right? So you kind of collect more duplexes or more fourplexes and more property, and then when you get this positive feedback, because like you get cash flow from it, right? And then you get the tax benefits as well. So it does start to kind of become addictive in a different way, right? You kind of forget about the Tesla. And of course, I do think about, I would love to have a Tesla, but it's easily, I can easily kind of justify not doing it, because I go, oh, well, but I would really still, even to this day, would rather go out and buy a duplex with that money than to have something that, at the end of the day, I mean, and this is the whole other thing, right? Is that you can go get a Tesla, but as soon as you get that first scratch on that car, it's just a car, right? I mean, I don't know if you noticed that happens, right? So
when you first get a car, you park it like 10 miles away from where you need to be.
That's right. Yeah.
You might as well just walk from your house.
Yeah. You put it in the garage, you go cleaning it. Now it's just like, our car now, we just got a, relatively new car. It's a Subaru. And initially it was all like, new car smell and kind of like beautiful on the outside, but now it's just, we just leave it outside, and it's like, we got, it just hailed just now. And, we're just kind of like, oh, well, whatever.
Whatever's whatever. Yep.
Whatever, just another car.
So that sheen wears off. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that there's a delicate balance. So you don't want to live your whole life saving up money either and saying, someday. So like you find the right balance for you. I know like Kenji's always trying to convince his mom to fly first class, right? And she won't do it. And she's like 70, right? And she's got a lot of rental properties. She could fly first class everywhere, but she won't. And so I think the delicate balance is, at some point you say to yourself like, hey, you know what? I want to spend some of this money. Let's go spend some of this money. Even if it's not the right investment strategy, you spend it for the emotional reasons. And so finding that right balance is something, we need to do too.
Now, how much work does it take to have this life where, you have this great business running on the side, you have this great profession on the side, you have children also, but in terms of like moving from place to place, what do you say when people say like, well, I mean, you don't really seem stable and stuff? What do you say about that? Because obviously you guys are smiling, you're loving life, you're doing the things that you have to do. This is a small sacrifice. So talk to those naysayers who are like, well, I don't want to move from place to place to place. What do you say about that?
I think our example is, how we've kind of done it, right? It's we've always had, there was good reason for every move, and it was well thought out. And for us, I know Leti doesn't like to move as much, but I don't mind it. I kind of like exploring a new city or neighborhood, and so I get a lot of joy out of it. But I think any of these things, like we could have done all the things that we've done and not moved, and we could have planted roots, and that would have been a different choice, and it would have been fine. We could have even gotten a primary residence, and I'm sure, we would still be successful now. Maybe we wouldn't be as far ahead because
Okay.
that money that for a down payment, instead of using it for a down payment on a primary residence, we invested it instead. So I think we got ahead as a result.
I
But
know we did.
yeah, we know we did. But I think, I feel that anybody can do. I mean, look, with real estate investing, and we're just talking about real estate investing right now. We really do believe that it can be as passive as you want to make it. I choose to really work at it because I look at it as my profession, and there's a lot of tax benefits to treating it like a business, and also like anything, I just develop a passion for what I'm doing, and when it comes to rental properties, my passion is like I want to make it the best business possible. Number one. And then number two, I want to also provide the best living environment for my tenants, right? And so I can
Okay.
get really passionate about it. I mean, these are kind of working class neighborhoods, working class people who, oftentimes may not have the, great choices in terms of living environment. And I want to provide like the best house on the block, right? That's kind of the vision. And so now, you have to do that in a way where you can still make money, right? You can spend
Right.
a whole bunch of money and it could be a really bad business decision. So it's a real balance. You got to figure out, what's the right amount of money to spend to make it, the best in the neighborhood, but not break the bank or lose your profits.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a life that we want.
Mhm.
This is the life of, it is travel that we joined Platinum last year, which Tony Robbins thing. We were gone 2 weeks a month. And it was crazy and it was really fun and it was exhausting and it was like everything. I mean, I don't know. I think
I hear his sessions are intense.
they're
Yeah,
incredible. They're so
they're
good.
intense.
But yeah, I mean, there's a time and there's a space, and then you find what's right for you. And just because this is what we've chosen, we know it's not the right decision for everyone. But yeah, we love the flexibility and freedom that we have to be able to say, hey, where do you want to go next year and live? Let's figure it
Mhm.
out. Like, we come up with these ideas and
The fun is in the challenge.
yeah, I mean, right now we're like thinking about like going and building Airbnbs in the San Juan Islands. Like maybe
Wow.
we'll do that, maybe we won't, but let's go explore it because it's exciting and it's
Wow.
fun.
Wow,
Um,
see, that's amazing. Like you don't get scared. First of all, you guys aren't worried about you don't like your eggs in one basket, I can tell. And then also at the same time, you just like I said before, like there's this fun in challenging and being challenged. And if you fail, then so what? At least you tried, right? So I think that's phenomenal. What do you think for people who are listening right? Go ahead.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is we have that freedom now to take a little bit more risk, like doing Airbnbs in San Juan Islands. And for us, that is a riskier play, right? I mean, we all know with COVID what Airbnbs have done,
Mhm.
but we've built this core multifamily cash flowing rental business that now makes our medicine our side gig and provides enough income that we have the flexibility to just try new things and take higher risks than maybe we would have been willing to do 3 or 4 years ago. So that's part of it for us is everyone has their own risk tolerance. And I would say that our risk tolerance is actually on the lower side compared to, we're not out there $100 million like development schemes either. You know what I mean? So
Not yet.
not yet.
Mhm.
So yeah,
That's what I
I think
love.
these
Okay.
things change with time, but I think part of the reason why we're willing to do stuff like that now is we have that core.
One thing I'm interested in is I wanted to ask you about this before we got into the vision part is stocks, because you talked about stocks and then you talked about real estate. So outside of like I'm sure your company's IRAs and so forth, do you guys focus on brokerage accounts at all? Or are you like really doubling down everything? I can see Dr. Kenji's face. He's shaking. He's like, nah, it's all real estate for you guys.
Well, tell them what you did this morning.
That's
And
true.
and
Yeah.
and, and
I just
explain it to our audience so they can understand exactly what you guys mean by this.
Yeah, so this morning I just took that $100,000 out of the IRA. As you know, with the new legislation, they allow you to take or borrow from your 401k without a penalty. And this was my rollover IRA from. But and so we're planning to use that to to grow our real estate business, and to also, I mean, there's been some things that we need to kind of address, especially with COVID, that that this will give us some money for that as well. So, but yeah, so the idea with the stocks for us is that, at least for me, and I know Leti has different reasons too, but for me, it's always been a matter of kind of control. And I think with just relying on stocks, even though, they've reliably gone up, 7 to 10% over, for decades. For me, like I want to have control over my investments, and really, it's not really it's not necessarily about stocks. I mean, it could be anything that I have control over. I'll definitely look into, and so it doesn't necessarily have to be real estate. For example, like we've invested in some startups, for example, and that
Oh,
may
wow.
seem like a very risky play, but if you know the people and if you trust the people that are leading the companies, then it's a bet that we're making, and I think it's one of these high risk reward bets. But I think we want to diversify, but in a way where we have more control as opposed to just relying on somebody else to invest it. And then also, I mean, yeah, there's all the problems with Wall Street, right? And I really
It's
think
not
that.
fair, or it feels like it's an uneven playing field.
Yeah, totally. And also just like, there's all these, like I don't even know that I can trust what's in those reports, right? That the companies generate, and if you talk, if you kind of hear some insiders people who are in those Fortune 500 companies, uh, and kind of whistleblower types, they'll admit, they'll say like, I would not invest in these companies because what's being reported is not accurate.
Mm.
And I think that's scary. I mean, it's to be investing in something that's uh, supposed to be on the up and up.
It's
And
like WeWork. That was
yeah,
horrible.
that's right, exactly. Yeah, that's a perfect example. Yeah. So and I'm I guess I've been investing even back when Enron was going on, right? So
Dang.
yeah.
You,
Yeah.
you aging yourself right
I
there,
know, that's
Dr.
right. I am aging
Dr.
myself.
Kenji.
Exactly. That's right. Maybe I shouldn't have gone there, but
I think, Kenji and I, everything's a spectrum, right? So Kenji's more on the side, I think, of less trusting of Wall Street than I am. But that's not to say, I'm a traditional doc, like putting all my money into the stock market either, right? So and I think that's a key here too, is like, you're going to have different risk tolerances for everything, different risk tolerances, even within real estate investing and the deals you do. And then, of course, different risk tolerances with stock market. And so you just have to find the right balance that fits the both of you, that you can both be okay with. I mean, even within real estate, we have this rule that if one of us doesn't like a deal, we can veto it. No questions
Mm.
asked. Like, we move on from there, right?
Dr. Leti, I got
And
this
then
Brooklyn Bridge for you that I want you to buy. It's only for $1.
veto.
Veto.
Oh, $1?
and then we had a lot of discussion for a long time because Kenji wanted more equity in our properties and I wanted to get us more leverage and to grow our portfolio faster.
Okay,
And so
so
we had to find the right balance there too.
so what does that mean? So explain to us what that means. He wants more equity. What does that mean versus you want more leverage? Explain that to us.
Right. So I wanted to have the minimum into our properties and, to use the bank loan as frequently as possible. And so whenever we built up equity in our properties or more money in, appreciation, or because we paid down the loan, I wanted to then get a cash out refi, pull it out, use that money, reinvest it, and then grow that much faster. Because as you reinvest that money and use it in multiple places, your portfolio grows. And that's how I wanted to be. Kenji really, well, you can explain
Well, I
your
was
own.
gonna
So
say,
basically keeping the money liquid, basically. That's what you prefer.
Well, not
well,
really.
yeah. Well, so some people like to have, like, let's say you buy 10 properties and you initially get loans on all of them, right? And you borrow 75% and you only put down 25% on all those 10 properties. Some people like to actually pay them all off, right? And have no debt at all.
Right.
And
That's
that
like the
would be,
Dave Ramsey. That's like the Dave Ramsey approach, right?
yeah,
Buy the
exactly. That'll
book.
be,
Right.
yep. There'll be zero. That means you have zero leverage. You're not even borrowing any money, right? And, and Leti wants to be more in the, let's be as leveraged as possible, borrow as much money as possible. So we have to put down as little as possible. And so for a while there, I was trying to actually pay off a few of our properties or some of our smaller properties and say, okay, let's just pay off like 2 or 3 of these and we'll have, another 10 or 12 or so with loans, but let's see if we can pay off 2 or 3 so we're less leverage. So if something would ever happen, we could always get a loan on that fully paid off property and pull out like 70% or 75%, right? And so if we have like $150,000 property, paid off, then we can go borrow, up to 75% of that 150,000. So it just like gives us access to money at any time. And if there's a downturn, then, it just gives us access to cash.
Right. But the flip side is you lower your cash on cash return. And so
Right.
you're making less money on your money because you're having all these properties sit there fully paid off and the money's just sitting in them, not making you money as efficiently. So it's a balance.
Yeah, it's a balance. And what I'm learning from you guys is you guys don't play by the book, which is good, right? I think this is awesome. You guys are winning by writing and trailblazing your own book, or, trailblazing your own path, right? Because, I'm sure Dr. Leti, and I know for me, before I heard your episode and before I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, there's this life that I wanted, right? There's this life, this fairy tale life. Even as a guy, we have these fairy tale lifestyles that we want and that we think being in medicine is going to afford us, right? But it seems as though you're able to be like, skirt. Nope, not quite. I want to do X, Y, this, and together you guys come, have this superpower where you're just playing by your own rules. Everybody tells us to just put as much money as you can into stock, or pay off your debt as quickly as possible. But you're winning by, playing by your rules, and that's awesome.
Well, what's interesting about the leverage story is that, we actually, I've actually shifted my philosophy since.
She won out.
Well, no. It was actually Trump. Trump had Trump's tax law.
Okay.
So he in the 2017 Jobs and Tax Cuts Act, he created something called bonus depreciation, which actually incentivizes you to go out and buy new properties. And so since then, we've actually taken a number of these properties that we had fully paid off, and we sold them and then put that money into a new property where we got a loan on those. So now we're more leveraged than we were before, but we did that because there's such huge tax benefits to buying a new property and then using that bonus depreciation that it just compelled me for sure to,
accept more leverage.
Yeah, accept more leverage. Exactly.
Okay. You guys use a lot of big words. Help me out. Explain to the audience, what's depreciation?
Sure. So like anytime you buy a new property, the government sees that the value of that property decreasing over time, even though your property is appreciating. And it's something that's actually used in other countries very differently than it is in the US. It's essentially this idea that if somebody builds a new property, like a brand new building, right, the government wants to incentivize that development by allowing you to deduct the decrease in value of that property over a period of time, let's say 27 and a half years. And that makes sense because that'll incentivize them, because that decreasing value, you can treat it as an expense. And what that'll do is it create a loss. And then it'll show that you've made a loss on this property and you can use that to shelter income. And so that's the incentive that's in place, okay? In the US, it's totally different because it's not, you can not only use depreciation for new buildings, but you can also use them for old buildings. So like if I go out and buy a 1920s building that should have been already depreciated by somebody else a long time ago, I can now reset the government allows you to reset the clock and depreciate that property as if it were brand new and based on the purchase price. So if I pay, $200,000 for something that in the 1920s was worth $10,000, right? I can deduct. I can take that $200,000. Well, let's say the building is $200,000. I can take that to zero over 27 and a half years and deduct that as an expense on my tax returns year after year. And bonus depreciation is where it allows you to take these certain components of the building and depreciate it all in 1 year to create this huge expense or huge depreciation loss. And so what that does is it allows you to create this loss that you can then shelter income with. And that's the reason for us that we wanted, it's just so compelling for us because I'm something called a real estate professional, and that allows us to shelter Leti's clinical income
and our
blog income. And so it just makes sense for us to create depreciation losses using bonus depreciation and
by buying new properties.
And that's what we're trying to do every year now, is buy as big a properties as we can afford every year to create these losses.
Now, Dr. Leti, you're still practicing. Are you practicing full time, or are you have you shifted down at all, or
I'm half-time now.
you're half
Half-time.
time?
So 1 week a month for
Okay.
hospitalists.
And Dr. Kenji, in order for you to be a real estate professional, you've had to clamp down your practicing now. What percentage are you at now?
So
Well,
I'm
I
just
guess
moonlighting
legally.
now. Yeah.
Okay, got you. Okay. Okay.
Initially, initially when I first claimed real estate professional status 5 years ago, I cut back to halftime that year, and then since then, I've actually probably the next year I was already
Moonlighter.
moonlighting. Yeah, actually, partway through that first year, I was already moonlighting. So I've been mostly a moonlighter for the last 5 years.
So what do you guys think your purpose is? Because I think, when you first enter into medicine, you feel like your purpose is to take care of that person, one person at a time, right? And you're going to change the world one person at a time, at least for me. And then something changes, the night, being naive, all of that stuff changes and goes away. And then you realize that maybe if I can help people, 10 at a time or 100 at a time, but it becomes difficult to do that as a physician, as a clinician. When I saw Dr. Kenji, when you were talking about trying to be the best landlord you can be, try to make sure that your properties are the best that some working class person can come to, affecting that person's life. Maybe that person has a child, maybe they could be in a better school district and so forth. Do you guys ever think that your purpose maybe is here? Like this is the way in which you're going to reach that much more people is by, real estate and teaching people about this and giving people an opportunity to have, really nice homes and be able to create their own, dreams for themselves. You ever think about that at all, or?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's providing nice homes for people who live in our properties, but I think it's also our mission that we have for our blog is to help as many physicians and high income professionals achieve that financial freedom. There's never, you know, I think with COVID, we all realized that we can't rely on just one income, right? I think it's so important to have multiple significant streams of income. And so real estate does that for us. Our blog is another source of income. And so I think, but what's driving all that, behind all that, is really the mission. And yeah, I think there are a number of different missions for us. There's and with the blog, like I said, yeah, it's helping people. With the real estate, it's helping our tenants.
Yeah, I would say there are a lot of missions, right? There's our family mission, right?
Sure.
There's
I
the
like that.
blog business mission. There's the real estate mission. I mean, it's like we have multiple missions that we're working towards all the time. And one thing that Tony Robbins always said is you can't be fulfilled unless you have contribution and you have growth. And those missions are our contribution. And they're really make us fulfilled and make us enjoy our lives. And then we have the growth where we're always trying new things. We're always scheming. We're always like, hey, let's do this. Let's try this. And that's the growth part, that we're learning new things. I mean, marketing and, creating a WordPress site. Like, we didn't know how to do that 2 years ago. We had no idea what we're doing, but now we are teaching people how to create courses, like our friends. So it's really cool.
Yeah, I think for anybody who's pursuing this path, they should realize, and once you achieve financial freedom, it's I don't think that most people that are taking our course and achieve financial freedom when they hit that point, they're just going to go, okay, I'm done. I'm just going to go sit down on the couch and watch Netflix, right?
It sounds
I just
tempting.
don't think that's, yeah. It's no, it does sound tempting. And when you do that for a week, then you kind of realize, okay, I'm ready for something else now.
Right.
So I think that applies to most of us. And so I think anybody on this journey, really, you'll hit that point, and that we hit that point ourselves, that you'll look at it and you go, wait, I gotta go out and do something. What is it? And then it really comes down to what Leti was saying, is that, okay, how can I grow and how can I contribute? And I think at that point, then you realize, wait, it's not about money. None of this is about money, right? And that's with our podcast, right? It's not about, rich is not about money. It's about health. It's about friendships. It's about, love.
I love
it's
that.
about
I love
all
that.
these other things. Growth, right?
Contribution.
Exactly. Contribution. Exactly. So, and so I think what people realize, that financial freedom is not the end, right? It's just a means, to some other end.
How cool is it to figure this out, at this age, rather than at 65 where you've been working your whole life thinking that retirement is going to be the best thing ever, and you get to retirement and like 6 months in, you're bored out of your mind,
Right.
and you realize you have no purpose, and you're like
Or you might not have health.
utterly depressed. I mean, there's a
Right.
reason that elderly men over 65 are like the highest suicide rate, right? It's because of stuff like that, is you realize you're not fulfilled anymore. So I totally agree. It's figuring this out now that you need growth, you need contribution to be fulfilled. And then, that's going to mean even when you have financial freedom that you're going to continue to work, because you're just going to work on things you love all the time.
So it's fascinating that you mentioned that age 65, because before you answered that, I was actually thinking about something. So before we go off, I want to get this perspective from you, because I'm sure the people who are listening are spectrum anywhere between late 20s to probably mid 40s. Let's say maybe even into their 50s, but let's say the majority are at that hot spot in that mid 30 range, right? And probably there are some people, actually there's a lot of people probably listening to this podcast who read your blog, and they're like, I've spent all my life trying to be a doctor. How can I just go and pivot? Like, what do you say to those people who, still fairly young, new, but are having a hard time pivoting and understanding this different way of life? Like, what are some positive things that you can say to them before we end off the show?
Well, I think Leti said it earlier, you don't have to give up medicine to pursue this path. I think it's the way we always look at these things is that, it's about educating yourself about finances. In our example, would be educating yourself about real estate investing. And it's definitely not as hard as, medicine or grad school or whatever, advanced degree that our listeners have. And it's really, if you have the right kind of material, the right mentors, you can learn it and pick it up very, very quickly. And so I think, it's really just about acquiring a new skill. And if you look at it that way, it has nothing to do with like pivoting, or it has nothing to do with like getting another job. It's about, it's about improving, and growing. Right. And I think that's ultimately part of fulfillment. I think it'll be a very fulfilling process for anybody who decides to pursue this path.
Yeah, I think the other thing that we haven't mentioned so far is mindset. So it's very easy to look at all the stuff we do and to say, man, they must be stressed out. They must be like, working 90 hours and like totally dead, right? But the thing to realize is that being stressed out, being overwhelmed, like that's all a mindset, actually. That's you choosing to decide that that's how you're going to view the world. And I would say like we're doing a lot of things, but it's actually energizing and it's not stressing us out. It's not overwhelming. And that is a change from, let's say, a year or two even ago, because when we were doing lab, it was a mindset shift to say, I mean, I even experienced this at work when I'm, hospitalist. Like I'll be at work and it'll be 10 a.m. and I'm still reviewing charts and I haven't even gotten up to see a patient yet. And I'll start to feel that stress, like anxiety. And then I'm like, why am I anxious? What am I stressed about? And then the answer is, I'm not going to get out until 9 p.m. tonight because I've taken so long, but that's not even true. Like if I ask myself if that's true, am I really going to get out at 9 p.m.? When was the last time I left at 9 p.m.? It's like, not true, right? That's not, but I'm allowing myself to feel that way. In fact, I'm more than allowing myself, I'm encouraging myself to view it that way. And when you start to say, you know what, that's actually not true, number one. And number two, you're doing this to yourself. It's like you cause suffering by arguing with reality and you choose to do it. And when you
Dr.
realize
Leti's
that's
going
a
deep.
choice,
I love it. Keep coming.
That changes things, right? It really does. So I mean, you can do so much more than you think you can, that you're able to. You think that all you can do is be a doctor and that's the only thing you can do well, but actually you could do multiple things at the same time and do it well. It's just about your mindset.
Yeah. And I think the other kind of thing is that it's the big curveballs in life, right? Or it's not even necessarily big curveballs, but there's certain things that happen, periodically that kind of throw you off, right? And or pose a big challenge. And so, when those things happen, I think what a lot of people do is they, it affects them, right? They kind of go into a depression or a sadness or stress, right? Or you get this kind of negative reaction, right? And so one of the things that I think has helped us a lot is to kind of remind ourselves, and again, this is something that Tony Robbins taught us, and something that we practice all the time, is that, that life happens for you, not to you, right? And so when you kind of
Okay.
use that lens on anything that happens, I give you just an example recently where we were looking to purchase, where we were trying to purchase a large apartment building at the end of last year, end of 2019. And we needed to purchase that property by December 31st because of the tax advantages associated with buying that property, that bonus depreciation we were just talking about. And if we didn't buy it in 2019, we were facing a big tax bill. And what ended up happening was we didn't close, and there was just talks of, essentially the seller refused to sign the paperwork because he thought the terms were changed, and so it just became this big mess. And I remember that day on December 31st, we looked at each other, and it was kind of like, again, we're potentially facing several $100,000 in taxes, right? And it was like, we looked at each other and we said, okay, we could either sit here and get stressed and say, and really, get angry at that other person, or we could sit down and go, okay, how's life happening for us? And then let's go roll up our sleeves and figure out this problem. And so what we ended up doing that day, literally December 31st, was to kind of reposition things, generate some tax losses so that we could actually shelter some income through our businesses. And we made some adjustments. And then what was beautiful about that, this whole thought, again, we're thinking this whole time, how is life happening for us, right? Even though we're facing several $100,000 in tax bills, how is life happening for us? Well, turns out towards the end of March, almost 3.5 months later, we finally closed on the property after getting multiple lawyers involved, finally closed on the property, and we bought it at about $150,000 discount. So we got a huge discount off of it.
Wow.
Because of the right. So then, right. So like, again, think about it. Like if back in December 31st, we just got stressed and we didn't take action, and we just felt sorry for ourselves, right? We wouldn't have done any of these things, or we would have just, for 3.5 months, we would have suffered. Instead, we didn't suffer at all. We kept looking at it as, well, okay, let's figure out how life's happening for us, and let's figure this out. And we negotiated an even better deal at the end of 3.5 months.
But even if we hadn't negotiated a better deal, it was a phenomenal opportunity to learn how to practice our mindset and not to get angry at the seller. And, it was a phenomenal opportunity to come together over a challenging situation and like support each other. Right. And it was a really great thing all the way around. Even if it hadn't worked out financially better for us, again, in our minds, it was a great opportunity to learn and to get better.
Yeah, I mean, like how we handled it. I mean, we didn't get angry at each other. We didn't get stressed about it. We didn't, it was nothing. It was just like, oh, okay, and move on, right? It was just like, it was totally fine. And
I mean, you don't even know. Maybe a better deal would have showed up. Like, you know what I mean? There's so much you assume is not going to work out because something doesn't go as you expected, but a lot of times it ends up better, or at least you learn from it, which makes it valuable too.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Vee always says that you can it's not the decision that really matters. It doesn't mean like, doesn't matter which path you choose. You got to choose a path, right? And then once you choose that path, you can't look at the other path and say, oh, I wish I did that other path, because that other path might have led you to getting run over by a car the next day, right? And so you just don't know, right? And so, the key is choose a path, and whatever path you're on, that's the path you're meant to be on, right? And that's kind of how you have to look at it. And like you said, if this deal didn't work out, right around the corner, there's probably a better deal, right? And then this other house might have burnt down, right? And so, again, you just don't know, right? And so you just kind of can't stress yourself about.
And it's money. It's money. And when you can make money, like, yes, it sucks to take a step back and lose some money, but you can earn it back again. And it's just money. I mean, it's not anyone's health. It's not anything really that important. It's money.
I love the mindset that you guys have on this. I heard there's one concept that I think pretty much falls in step with what you guys are saying, is you guys have basically fallen in love with the process, and you don't really focus too much on the prize. The prize will come, but it's those multiple reps. It's the mindset changes that are involved with the process. And, whether you get the prize or you don't, you just become better people just because you've done the process so many times. So
Yeah.
It
I mean,
is.
don't get me wrong. I mean, it is a, we're constantly challenged, right? I mean, there's always stuff happening, right? And so I don't want anybody to think that, that, oh, it's like every day it's like, roses. It's not like that at all. I mean, it's like, it is, we're constantly, we're living life. We're out there, right? There's a lot of interactions, a lot of stuff, people, somebody was just telling us today, the bigger you get, the more things that are going to happen, right? And you
Mo
just have to kind of,
money, mo problems,
that's right. You just got to have to, and it's more
as the great
about,
lyricist Biggie Smalls said.
that's right. So yeah, so it's just a matter of like, how you handle it that really matters. It's not, it's not that a bunch of stuff is happening to you. So, and yeah, like you said, the process can be really beautiful, or it could be really, you could suffer.
I love it. I love it. Guys, thank you very much for allowing me to come on your show. This was a really, really good conversation. And like I said, I'm impressed by what you guys are doing. I'm really excited to hear future episodes from you all. And I think the audience just got a masterclass, on relationship goals, but also at the same time, how to handle real estate and vision planning also. So, I'm appreciative for you guys letting me come in on your show. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nii.
Thank you so much, Nia. We love this kind of idea about, having you interview us, and we really appreciate, you taking the time to do this for us.
Right. And everything you've taught us about podcasting too.
That's right. Yeah.